be in Sacramento and be a Sacramento Kings fan.
Yeah, and let's bring in a guy who covers the
Let's
Sacramento Kings for The Athletic, Hunter Patterson. I'm always messing up his name, man, and that's a level of disrespect. I apologize, Hunter. You're my guy, man. Happy to have you on here with Drapes and Chris. You write for The Athletic. It's been a long time coming for the Sacramento Kings franchise. What do you make of the drought being over and the Kings finally getting it done?
Yeah, first, I appreciate you both having me on.
Absolutely.
I think it's been great. I live in Sacramento now. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area, but to be able to experience this in the city and you can be out and see Kings fans. I've seen people kind of like yelling, light the beam back and forth to each other. So credit to Mike Brown and his staff, De'Aaron Domas, obviously. It's been great to see.
Yeah, Hunter. I mean, it's kind of like that's how we say hello these days. Is just by saying light the beam. It's just like a way of exchanging pleasantries. You mentioned, Kyle mentioned this is your first season covering the team. Wins pretty obviously, but what has been really just the most surprising thing about this season that you didn't see coming?
I had no idea that they would mesh as well as they do. It seems like just watching games and being around practices and things, it really seems as though they probably spend a ton of time off the court.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily expect that to happen in Mike Brown's first year as head coach. So it's been cool to see them as cohesive as they are.
Mm-hmm. Hunter, you bring up a good point. I've always given credit to the players as well as the coaches because Mike Brown came in, new coaching staff. We understand that. But if the players don't buy in,
right?
Mike Brown practices these dudes hard. They're always practicing. But I haven't seen any pushback from the players, any whining. You mentioned just the camaraderie with the guys. It just seems like it's a team full of good dudes. We don't know them personally, obviously. But without the players buy in, I don't think this happens.
I agree. And even anytime a question comes up about practice, as you mentioned, because that Mike is kind of known for longer practices that might be more intense. It seems like the players almost want to defend him in a sense. And they're like, yeah, the practices are longer, but that could contribute to potentially why we've been able to maintain our health over the season.
Right.
So it's been cool to see that dynamic between the players and the trust and respect that they have in Coach Mike Brown.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about the teams wanting to position themselves to play the Kings in the postseason because specifically of their lack of experience. If the Kings were to play, you mentioned from the Bay, if they were to play the Warriors in a playoff series, how much of a factor do you think experience would actually play in a playoff series?
I think it would be a big factor, obviously, but I don't think that everyone on the team is inexperienced in that sense. So Harrison, as we know, he won with Golden State. Coach Mike Brown has done the same. And Domas has even been in a 7-game series before.
Kevin Huerter as well.
Right. Yeah. And Domas' series ended, I believe, because it was LeBron. More or less as team, got to give them credit. But there are individuals on the team who have experience in high-level moments. It's just not the entire team. So I think players who have that experience just kind of have to shed light and kind of let the guys know what could be coming.
Hunter, in your opinion, is the West wide open? I look at Denver, and Windhorst talks about, people think the Kings are a mark. Like, are people afraid of the Nuggets, let's say? Or do you think it's wide open out there in the West?
Yeah, I think there's like a mutual respect and probably like lack of fear between the entire West at this point. If you look at just below probably the 4th or 5th seed, there's like a few games that separate a ton of teams. So I think the players, I personally feel this is the most wide open the West has been in a minute. But then again, you look back at last season, it may have felt that way until the Warriors kind of got full strength. But I do think anyone in the West thinks if they're healthy enough and playing well enough, they can probably come out of the West.
Yeah. And you mentioned just the constant change in the Western Conference right now. The Kings probably aren't going to figure out who they're going to play in that postseason that first round until probably the last couple days of the NBA season. Is, there's the Wolves, the Clippers, the Warriors, Suns are all kind of in the mix to play Sacramento in that first round series. Is there anyone you feel like the Kings match up best against? And also, who do you feel they match up worst against as well?
The length is the biggest issue, I think.
Right.
We see Coach Brown trying to figure out who he wants at that backup 5 position. So I would stray from Lakers with AD. Definitely the Timberwolves having Cat and Gobert. I think the Kings would match up pretty well with the Mavericks.
Right. If they can get there.
Yeah. If the Mavs can get there, yeah.
But it's based on matchups alone, I do think they match up well with the Warriors, but the experience is the biggest issue.
Kind of the equalizer.
So those two probably, like we said, if the Mavs could kind of get things going, and potentially I'm not mad at a Warriors series either.
Ooh. Yeah. Who would you? No, I'm not going to say who would you be pulling for. You're a Bay Area guy. You're up here, so I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. But I will ask you about this team going forward. The Kings make the playoffs. How do they ensure this isn't just a flash in the pan, a one-year thing? Like, let's say the Atlanta Hawks. Remember, our Hawks had that deep run, and now there's total dysfunction. Like, how do we make sure that this is not a one-year thing?
I think it has a lot to do with kind of just like building on the chemistry that you have and not being complacent.
Right.
And we see that each time the Kings may have been able to sound complacent in post-game interviews, they're always extremely focused on long-term success. And I think the fact that Domas and De'Aaron are really young, and hopefully they'll stay healthy and maintain that. When your two stars in that sense are as young as they are and potentially haven't even peaked yet, I think that's a huge advantage.
Hunter, this is the last one from me. This is right up your wheelhouse. I know you do a weekly NBA style power ranking for the Athletic.
Right.
Who on the Kings who's brought the most heat consistently this year? Off the floor, I would say Malik probably.
Yeah.
I remember there was I want to say the Kings had posted, I'm not sure if it was the YouTube series, but when Malik was actually in.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He was like trying to track down specific pieces and things. So I think he looks at fashion probably different than most people on the team.
Yeah. Who's been your all-encompassing of the entire NBA? Who's been the MVP for you so far this season in terms of style?
Probably Shai Gilgeous. I think he's pretty fashionable. And you can't really, other than him liking kind of like baggier clothes, you can't really put like a finger on how he likes to dress. So credit to him for being pretty unique, switching it up.
Where's Kuzma at on that list? Kuz, he brings it too.
Up there too. He's like in Fashion Week, and like I'm pretty sure he's modeled different lines and things in his free time. So Kuz, if Shai is 1A, Kuz could be 1B.
All right, they're right there, neck and neck. Hey, Hunter, man, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for all you do, all the love you give to the Sacramento Kings. Hunter Patterson of the Athletic joining us here on Chris and Co. All right, man, we'll see you soon at the next Kings game.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, appreciate you, Hunter.
Hunter Patterson getting it done for us here on Chris and Co. And I see what you did there. You went a little style. Let's go off the court,